You're listening to Boobies and Newbies, brought to you by the Frolic Podcast Network. Welcome to Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and happy March, everybody! As I mentioned in last week's Loverboy episode, the theme for this month's reading is digital love. So prepare yourselves for texting, sexting, and insta-love all month long. Today's guest is actress, writer, and fellow Second City Improv alum, Hadass Lev. Welcome, Hadass.
Hi, friend. How are you?
I'm good, friend. How are you?
Fabulous.
I feel like it's been a minute since I've seen you, much less spoken with you on something other than instant messenger, because I feel like half of my conversations these days take place on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook.
Yeah, no, same.
I'm not upset about, I mean, I really have to say that, like, I know that this is obviously a tough time and it's killing me that we can't, just meet up and browse a bookstore or go to brunch or what have you. But I will say I am thankful for technology during the pandemic for the fact that I've been able to keep in touch with everybody.
Oh, yeah. And that Zoom coffee we had, that was delightful.
That was delightful. Yes, I know. I think people are reaching their breaking point when it comes to Zoom in general. Like, just having to say the word Zoom, I think, sends some people into a tailspin.
Because I was working through most of the pandemic in a restaurant, for me, Zoom was a nice little vacation because having to deal with people refusing to put on their masks and being in a condensed space, I would much prefer Zoom.
Yeah, okay. I want to hear like a little bit about that because I feel like you have a unique perspective.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, in that you have been working through most of this pandemic, and more than that, you've been working in a very public sphere, which needs to be getting a lot more attention and, dare I say, devotion, because the service industry, man, they are out here saving lives and serving up dinner, and I am so thankful.
Yeah, it's a weird experience because we are required to keep a certain level of professionalism, but there is also a certain level of responsibility that it didn't match. Like, also the rules kept changing and people were getting frustrated with us for the rules having to change. Like, people will walk in.
Right, because you guys are responsible, not the state or the government or anything.
Yeah, people will walk in those glittery mesh masks that do nothing and expect service. Or this one guy didn't want to wear a mask, so he took off his shirt and tied it around his face. And we we literally could not serve him, and he like threw a tantrum. And it's stuff like that where I think people are a lot more on edge.
Yeah.
And it's a very weird experience. Definitely when we had outdoor dining, it was terrifying because the servers, had to go out there and sanitize and clean, surrounded by people who weren't wearing masks.
Right.
That was the biggest thing.
I liked when everything was, before they were doing like indoor dining, outdoor dining, I liked when everybody was just doing takeout. When it was just, you can order out, pick it up. You can even like pick up drinks at some places, which I thought was brilliant. But yeah, I don't know. As soon as they started like opening up, first it was outdoor dining, then it was like partial indoor dining. I was just like, oh God, this is a mistake, because this is just, you do one, it's going to lead to the next, and then it's going to lead to bigger and bigger and bigger. Like it just, and then it got to the point where, things got out of hand and we went right back to where we started.
Yeah, to some degree, I understand why they're opening everything up, because a lot of these businesses depend on it. But at the same time, a lot of businesses had to adapt. the food industry can adapt as well. If they have a
Yeah.
clientele, then I don't see why they need outdoor dining and endangering people.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And honestly, I mean, with, like you said, with all the different like changes and accommodations that so many other industries have made, I think there's absolutely room for that to happen within the food service industry. Like I know in my hometown, they started like publicizing like, okay, Tuesday nights it's takeout night. Like we're going to urge everyone in town to get takeout on this night. And so nothing else, if nothing else, everybody's ordering out one night a week and getting at least some support to the like local businesses. And
Hmm.
I just was like, that's so great. Like there are so many opportunities for people to, partner with certain businesses, or maybe if a restaurant's doing takeout, they can deliver to one of the offices that's like still working in office. So I don't know. It's just gone on so long that I'm annoyed. And I know that I'm annoyed sitting from home, which probably doesn't even measure up to how annoyed you are working in a restaurant during a pandemic. So my hat's
Yeah,
off to you.
yeah, definitely. If any of your listeners go to a restaurant, yeah, definitely feel for the people, because it's not just dealing with people, it's the constant overstimulation of the ringing from like 30 apps. It's a lot. So
Yeah.
definitely hats off to anyone who works in a restaurant during a pandemic.
Very true. Yeah, honestly,
Yeah.
anybody who's been working this whole time, like obviously frontline workers, I feel like people in grocery stores are not getting like the recognition that they
No, they're
deserve.
not.
I know I make a trip to the post office like every week or so, and so I absolutely adore my folks at USPS. So wherever you're going, just know that somebody is out there working at these locations and they deserve respect. They deserve a friendly hello, whatever it is. Please, please, please cherish these people, because also they handle your stuff. Like, I never want to piss off people who handle my food.
Yeah, that's not something you want to do.
Yeah, I take my food so seriously. People know who listen to this podcast how much I love to eat. So it's important to me.
Yeah, no, same.
Oh my gosh. What's going on with you during the pandemic as far as any projects that you have coming up? I know that I've seen you filming some stuff lately, and I'm so curious how that's been.
Um, that's also such a cool experience because the rules are changing. And I just like being required to get tested.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. I can check that out and how strict they are on sets because of that. It's really fun. It's a nice little pocket of getting to see people's faces, and it's so
Yeah.
interesting because when we're off camera we have to wear our masks and be, separated, but on camera masks are off and it's like, oh yeah, this is how things used to be. So that's the coolest part of it. I recently shot a pilot presentation called The Claws, which I'm excited to see because it's a dark comedy.
Dope. I love a good
Yeah,
dark comedy. And you know what? I've been watching a lot of them lately. Like I noticed how dark the content is that I've been consuming.
yeah.
Did you watch that new movie with Rosamund Pike yet called I Care a Lot?
No.
Oh my God. I mean, like on the one hand, you're just like, this is terrible because all of the people in it are awful human beings. Like she's trying to basically like rip off old people for their money, and then she basically picks the wrong old lady, and then you have the guy up against her who is like a drug lord, smuggler slash human trafficker. You're just like, I feel like it's the first movie I've watched in a long time where I've rooted for everyone to lose.
I love that. I need to watch that. I've been watching a lot of the older horrible movies. Recently I watched This Is the End.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because I'd never seen it. And I'm like, wow, this is wrong on so many levels. I both love and hate this.
Well, and what an appropriate time to watch that
Yeah,
movie, too.
yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
you've got your pilot presentation. That's awesome. Anything else you want to promote?
Um, yes. So about a year ago, I shot a short comedy film called The Audition. It's on YouTube. If anyone wants to watch it for a giggle, please go ahead.
Yes. We'll include a link in the show notes too so people can check it out.
Yay, thank you.
Of course. Got to support the arts, babe.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, I'm glad to see that you and so many people, life goes on. Like during the pandemic. Like I know it's a crazy time to be doing anything, but we're both in the arts. We've seen what this has done to like the film industry and the theaters and galleries, like all of them have been affected. So I'm
Oh
glad
yeah.
to see that there's some bit of normalcy returning. Like I know they're filming a bunch of stuff in Australia right now.
Yeah, Australia and Middle America is where all the films are going right now.
Okay, so perfect. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll set up a new film hub. It'll be like the new Hollywood in Iowa or something.
I mean, I had an audition for one that filmed in Ohio, so anything's possible.
Hey, and you know what? I'm in the Twin Cities and they're really cool. Like, I really wish more people film stuff here. Like, obviously, Chicago is not that far away, but there are some other great cities in the Midwest and in Middle America that don't get enough recognition, and they're probably a shit ton cheaper to film in than Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
think that's why productions are going there because it's cheaper and also I guess there's more space.
Yeah, well,
It's not as condensed.
corn,
Yeah.
right? It's just like cornfields and stuff.
You know what? Gotta love corn.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I'm expecting a lot more. I don't know if
A
they
lot
can
more
make,
corn films.
yeah, a lot more like corn horror films, but I feel like they've done that. But you know what? Maybe there's a market for that. Maybe there's going to be like all corn porn in the future.
Corn porn.
I would
I
watch
hope the
it
soundtrack I hope the soundtrack is done by Corn.
with a K.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. I'm glad you brought up soundtrack because it seems like the perfect segue into today's reading. So, as I mentioned, the theme for March's reading is digital love. And let me tell you, this has been like one of the more fun themes to plan books around because so often nowadays we are relying on dating apps and social media for any sort of human interaction. So there's been like a huge uptick in books that have included that in one way or another. And so just finding out and sourcing the books that I wanted to talk about this month, there were so many to pick from. And the one we're going to be talking about today is The Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. And this contemporary romance was published just last year, April 2020. In fact, I remember because it came out around my birthday. And it's available on Amazon for $9.99 Kindle edition, or if you're lucky enough to snag a copy from the local library like I was, go
Same.
for it. Yeah, and remind me, you downloaded the audiobook, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Because the non-audiobook, there was like a 8-week wait time.
Oh, it was probably because I had it.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you an audiobook listener usually? Like, do you prefer audiobook to like a physical book?
I go back and forth. I book hop a lot, so I usually will have an audiobook on when I can't have a book in my hands.
Okay.
Yeah, I have some book going at some point.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. I always like when my guest listens to the audiobook and I read a physical book because I like hearing about, what they enjoyed about the audiobook. So I'll definitely want to talk about that. But before we get to that, I do want to ask, what's your relationship with romance novels, Hadass? Had you read one before reading the Happy Ever After playlist?
Sort of. So, I'm sure you remember when we met, I was like, no, I don't do romance books, or it's such a boring genre. I didn't like it. Well, about a year and a half ago, I got really into them because I got into Lore Olympus, which the fandom
Yes.
is hard. The fandom is
Yes,
hard.
it is. Rock
Um,
hard.
Right. And then you started recommending books. So yeah, I read the Hating Game, the Hate Game.
Yeah, Hating Game. Yeah.
Hating Game. Yeah, I liked that one. And then I read this one, which I will find out as we speak.
I'm curious before, it sounds like you kind of had an idea about the genre before you started reading it. So I'm wondering, like, what gave you the impression that romance was boring? Because I know that that's not a word that I typically hear thrown around with romance genre.
I basically, when I thought of romance books, I used to associate them with like a romance movie. And I find those movies, they can get so boring because it's the same thing every time. So my brain thought all romance books were the same as well, which isn't true. You proved me wrong.
Well,
Um,
I'm so glad to hear that.
yeah, like, and also you taught me to enjoy the tropes as opposed to judging them, which was
Yes.
a nice little change of how I looked at them. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
getting more into them.
I remember us taking a trip through a bookstore. I mean, God, it was like a while ago at this point, but
Yeah.
and we were just kind of talking about it, and that's when I floated the idea about being on the podcast to you. But yeah, I mean, it's always exciting to hear what people initially think about the genre versus like how they feel after they read one book or two books or 10 books, because I feel like romance is like anything. You have to try a certain amount to be able to form a well-informed opinion. Like I'm not going to pretend like I know about the game of squash, just because like I've seen people play it on TV once or twice. So you've become a fan, though, of is it Lore Olympus? Am I saying that
Uh-huh.
right? Okay, because
Yeah.
I have only dabbled in what people post online about it, and I know that it's huge, and that aren't they making like a TV series about it?
Yeah, so the Jim Henson Company is making a series about it, and it's going to be on Netflix.
Oh, that's going to be
I
that's going to be
know.
exciting. And I love
I know.
I love that that's going to be another fandom that exposes so many people to romance the same way that Bridgerton did in 2020.
Oh, I loved Bridgerton.
Oh, okay, girl. Well, we got to
Okay,
talk about
sorry.
that for a hot second.
Okay, so I was like, my friends were talking about it. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll watch one episode. I
Mm-hmm.
got through the whole series in one sitting.
Yeah, exactly.
That's 8 hours of
I
my
love
life in one sitting.
I love that you're like, I'll just try one. It's like potato chips. Like there's no just one episode of Bridgerton.
That's not a thing. It's not.
Oh, I love it. So are you excited then for season 2, which is going to be about Anthony Bridgerton, the
Um,
oldest Bridgerton brother?
yeah, the one who, can I say a spoiler on your thing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, the one who got rejected by the opera singer, that's Anthony, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's like super broody and everything.
Yeah, my friends and I have a theory that Julie Andrews is going to make a physical appearance at some point, even though they revealed who the writer is.
Right,
Like we
right.
still have a theory it's her, but not really her.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I've read some of the books. I haven't read all of them, so I don't really know how the reveal goes of what's her face that's writing it? Miss It's like
Miss Penny Bottom
Penny
or
Penny Whistle Penny Bottom? Penny
Whistle Bottom,
Whistle Bottom.
I think it's Whistle Bottom.
Yeah, that sounds right. But so I don't know how the reveal goes down in the books, but it did surprise me that came in the first season of the
Yeah.
show. So I feel like there's got to be more to it,
Yeah, for sure. It just feels too perfect.
Whistle down.
Whistle down. What did we say? Whistle bottom?
Yes, and I said penny whistle. Apologies to Julia Quinn and the entire Bridgerton fan base.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next. And I love that they're being so diverse with their casting. And
Yes.
even though people are giving them shit, I'm just like, come on. Like, what's I don't know. I don't want to watch another show with all white people. Like, this has been refreshing. I love it.
Oh my God, yes. And the queen, her
Oh my
hair
God.
throughout the whole thing.
She is amazing. And you know what? She's not in the books like that. Like, she's not in the books in general. Like, I think they just mention her in the books. They don't
Yes,
actually make her a character.
in the show, she is a walking art piece throughout all of it. And I love it.
And Lady Danbury too. She's one of my favorites. And then you know what? I actually really like the mom. I like the mother character, Mrs. Bridgerton.
Oh,
I
yeah.
find her very interesting. It just goes to show you, like, when you're not 19 anymore, because you find yourself connecting more with the mother character than you do with the children.
Well, it's like that one meme that says it says a lot about your age when you agree with the adults in Disney movies over the
Yep.
kids. Yeah, oh yeah.
It's like that Zillow SNL sketch they did recently where Zillow was like porn. I'm like, yeah, that's my life.
Yep.
Anyway, but well, I'm excited that you're here for romance. I'm excited that you decided to read something new with me. So let me give everybody the synopsis for the Happy Ever After playlist, and we will jump in. And I feel like usually I say the brief synopsis, and I think this is actually pretty brief. So that is an accurate assessment. Here we go. 2 years after losing her fiancé, Sloane Monroe still can't seem to get her life back on track. But one troublemaking pup with a take me home look in his eyes is about to change everything. With her new pet by her side, Sloane finally starts to feel more like herself. Then, after weeks of unanswered texts, Tucker's owner reaches out. He's a musician on tour in Australia, and bottom line, he wants Tucker back. Well, Sloane's not about to give up her dog without a fight. As their flirty texts turn into long calls, Sloane can't deny a connection. There's no telling what could happen when they meet in person. The question is, with his music career on the rise, how long will Jason really stick around? And is it possible for Sloane to survive another heartbreak?
Dun, dun,
I
dun.
was gonna say, I just set that up to be like a bum 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 moment, but I feel like this is not a bum 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 book, so
No, it's not.
apologies. I will say what's funny, and then I will want your initial impressions, but what's funny is this is the second book we've read this season that features a meddling animal character. So we had a cat in one of our February episodes, and now we've got the darling dog named Tucker.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I think honestly there's a huge market for people who love romance novels with animals. Not that the animals fall in love, but that the animals like somehow bring people together, like whether it's like a dog walker or a veterinarian, whatever it might be. So I didn't plan it this way, but there you go. That's 2 books so far in the span of a month and a half.
Gotta love the pups and the kids.
I know the cat was pretty cute too in our February read as well. So I'm pleasantly surprised and impressed by our meddling animals, but I will turn it over to you, my dear, and ask you, what are some of your overall impressions of the book?
Well, I liked it a lot. There was like 2 things I didn't like, but for the most part, I loved the book. I love that the dog was the reason they met.
Oh, I know.
I know. I'm a sucker for any type of like animal story, and yeah, I just like that they bonded over their general love for the dog.
Yes.
Also, one thing that really stuck out to me that I loved was that Lola wasn't this two-dimensional mean girl. Like, she actually has a backstory
Yeah.
and a purpose in the story, as opposed to just the, I mean, I don't like referring to people as this, but like the bitch who's trying
Yeah.
to take your man.
That was a
So that,
surprise too. I didn't see
yeah,
that coming.
yeah, that was a huge surprise. And I honestly, I would love a prequel to her. I would read that.
Yes. Okay. So I usually mention this, and I did forget to mention this in the synopsis, that this is the second book in a series. And so the first book in the series follows our heroine of this book, her best friend, Kristen. It follows her romance. And after meeting Kristen, I can say that I would probably go back and read that book because I
Yeah.
find Kristen utterly delightful. And there is a third book coming up in the series that will be released in 2021. I don't have the information in front of me, so I wish I had more details to share. However, I know that it's coming out, but I want to say I looked at the synopsis and I didn't recognize any of the character names in that one. So maybe they tie more into the first book than they do this one, or maybe
Hmm.
I just had a brain fart and did not put the pieces together. So there is more
Well,
coming, but I don't know if Lola will have a book.
yeah, like the only people who were really mentioned from Sloane's side was Kristen, her husband. By the way, I loved their relationship with her. It was so
Yes,
delightful.
adorable.
And her parents, right? Everyone else. Oh, and Brandon. Wait, was it Brandon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Granted,
So the
the dead fiance.
yeah. So Jason's not in the story yet. There could be way more characters for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking at it. The next book is called Life's Too Short. It's coming out in April. Oh, girl. Abby loves her April releases. I am here
She
for it.
thinks about you every
I
time.
guess so.
It's
And
like your
it's,
birthday month.
yeah, exactly. It's Life's Too Short, and the heroine is named Vanessa, and she's a, it looks like a YouTuber or something. Like Vanessa lived, okay. Yeah, I'm not, her, something about her half sister suddenly leaves and she's in custody of her infant daughter. Oh, you know what? I want to say I actually requested an advanced copy of this one on NetGalley. So I might actually have a copy of this waiting for me. And apparently her love interest is the unbelievably hot lawyer who lives next door named Adrian. But I don't remember an Adrian or a Vanessa from this story. Do you?
No, I remember Jessica. Wait a minute. Wait, wasn't Adrian the assistant?
Was he? I don't.
Oh, no, no, no. I'm thinking of the female assistant.
Oh, no, no, no. Okay. I know exactly who this is. Adrian was the cousin of Kristen's husband that like came to town from Minnesota.
Oh, you're right.
I'm assuming, I mean, that's got to be the same Adrian, right? I feel like she can't have two different Adrians. No, I'm looking at it in my notes. Adrian Copeland. Okay. So, well, that's interesting. So I wonder if it takes place in Minnesota or in Los Angeles, because they're talking about in the synopsis that the fact that the woman is a like YouTuber, but we know from this book that Adrian lives in St. Paul, hello, my city, and he visits LA. So anyway, we're getting carried away about a book that's not even out yet, but it is coming. So I will say one of the things that I did giggle about was I don't know if you've noticed this in books you read, but I feel like ever since I moved to Minnesota, I've been seeing a lot more movies and reading a lot more books that are somehow set in Minnesota or people are from Minnesota. So the fact that our hero in this book, Jason, is from like rural Minnesota and they go back and visit and they talk about St. Paul and everything. And coupled with the fact that they normally live in Los Angeles and you and I both lived in Los Angeles, you are still there, that
Hmm.
I just was getting a kick out of the fact that like this was covering all these territories that I know and have lived in multiple states.
I could see you getting giggly about that. I really get amused when writers describe LA
Yeah.
because either it's really, really wrong. I'm like, that's not anywhere here, or it's crazy accurate. There's not an in-between vagueness.
Yes. That I feel like that's how you can tell how much time somebody has spent in LA.
Hmm.
Like if they're from the area, if they live there, or what have you. And I don't know enough about Abby Jimenez, but I do know that based off of her bio, it does say she's living in Minnesota. So I kind of feel like I need to reach out to her. And also, I feel like I found a lot more authors lately who are in Minnesota. I've had a few reach out to me to say, like, hey, I live in Minneapolis, or, oh, I only live a few minutes outside of the Twin Cities. So when the pandemic is over, I feel like we need to have some sort of like romance celebration meetup in Minnesota of all places.
I'm so down. I'll hop on a plane and join you.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah, come. It's delightful when it's not freezing. So I'm here for it. But okay, what else? What else did you like about the book?
I really enjoyed the fact that Sloane's comfort was definitely a point in the book.
Yes.
Because a lot of the times, from what I've read or seen, there's always that story where it's some woman is dealing with loss and some guy thinks his dick will cure it, you know? And
Ugh.
that's, but like this, Jason's like, hey,
Yeah,
your limits matter. So that's something I definitely really liked and saw.
I agree.
Also, the fact that they cover loss, because
Yes.
grieving is not a 6-month period. It can last for years, and they definitely showed that. And to
Hmm.
see that vulnerable side of a character was really refreshing.
Yeah, and this is one where while we don't experience like death on the page, I will put out a content warning in our episode show notes that this is a story that, especially in the first half, focuses heavily on somebody dealing with depression and trying to climb their way out of grief after the loss of a loved one. And then near the latter half of the story, we kind of see some struggles with addiction. Not between our two main characters, but with Lola, one of the characters that we mentioned already. And
Mhm.
and so again, it's not the main focus of the story. And I like that it's not like I was worried that the whole book was going to be about her trying to figure out if she's going to date somebody else. And that's not the case. It's more of like, okay, I found somebody else to date. This is working out great. But then there's this whole added extra element that he's a freaking rock star in the making. And
Mhm.
so, but yeah, just know going into it that there are some heavier moments, especially near the beginning and especially closer to the end. However, it is a happily ever after. So there's that to look forward to. It's in the title.
It really is, though.
Did you, by the way, check out the Happy Ever After playlist that's on Spotify?
I did not. I considered listening to all the songs on the playlist, but
Mm-hmm.
then there was a certain point in the book I got angry at the characters, and then I'm like,
Okay,
I'm
I
not
did
gonna
too.
listen to this. I'm
I
not gonna
did
listen to this
too.
shit. Yeah.
So that I will say I really overall I really did enjoy this book. Like this is when I'm giving my Goodreads review probably going to be around. I wish I could do like half stars on Goodreads. They don't give you that option because I would
Hmm.
probably give it between a 4 and a 4.5 star just because I do think the writing is great. I'm very
Yeah.
invested in Abby's writing. I think the tone is great. I think there's a lot of fun. Like I said, Kristen is a freaking riot. Like she is so funny. I
Hmm.
love the relationships that people have in this story. I think it's very well constructed, start to finish. However, I became so frustrated at a couple moments in the book, but
Same.
specifically like yeah, no, it really was. It was like two major moments, but I was so frustrated that I literally had to like say out loud, "Oh my god, come on. What are you doing?" And I had to like set the book down, walk away, refresh myself, get some water, and then come back to it.
Yeah, I definitely had to walk away from the book because I was just like, are you fucking kidding me?
Okay, so I'm curious. I'm going to guess that we have similar moments, but I'd love to know what frustrated you.
Okay, the I have to hurt you to protect you breakup.
Oh yeah, it's all bullshit. I hate
I
I
hate that
cannot
so
stand
much.
that.
That's like one of the oldest used tropes ever. It's
Yeah.
used so often, and it's also a bullshit one. Like, I don't believe you,
Yeah.
like, to protect someone, you don't hurt them.
Well, and especially if like you're such a good guy, like he's painted to be such a great guy start to finish. This is what I would call an insta love story. Like they're very invested in one another, especially him in her from the very beginning. Like I do
Hmm.
think it is like a love at first sight insta love connection. That being said, I'm just like, we're supposed to believe, and not just us as the reader, but her, the character, she's supposed to believe that this dude who has been nothing but amazing start to finish is all of a sudden gonna do this bullshit. I'm going to pretend I cheated on you with somebody to hurt you so you break up with me. And really, it's to save you.
Yeah, yeah, it's very out of character for him, and it's also just, what's the word? What's the right word for this? It's kind of like a cop out.
Okay, I was about to say lazy. That's what
Yeah.
I was going to say too. And I think it's because this is something that I feel like nobody would have batted an eye about say 10 years ago. However, I kind of want to see us challenging our characters more, not just in romance, but in everything. We're both writers. I tell my writing students all the time to stop making shit easy for their characters. And I feel the same way here. I just feel like there's it's I feel like there could have been something better. There could have been did the excuse work? Yeah, of course. It hurt her. She thought he cheated on her. We'd already planted the seed that like that was a woman that was interested in him. However, I just feel like I expect more at this point in time.
Yeah, also, yes, it moved the story along, but there could be like a different way you do it, because she establishes with him that she can be the jealous type,
Mhm.
and they didn't even build on that.
Yeah.
It's
In fact,
just she shows up. Yeah.
she didn't even like believe it at first. Like when she first showed up and she saw Lola in his hotel room, she's like, "Okay, I know that this girl's obsessed with him. I know he wouldn't cheat on me." So this she's trying to make this seem like he cheated on me, but then like in the blink of an eye, she starts to believe it, flips out, leaves, comes back and tells him, okay, I got my head on straight. I believe you. I know that this girl is just trying to make trouble for us. But then when he tells her, no, it happened, she like immediately believes it again. Like, I think my frustration was less about the action itself and more with how quick they were to change their minds and
Yeah.
respond differently, because the other moment that drove me crazy was kind of when she can't it's the first time that she thinks he cheated, when she sees a
The
tabloid
article?
photo, yeah, of this the same girl touching him inappropriately at like a movie premiere, and she immediately is like, nope, that's it, we're done, blah blah blah, I can't do this, you're a liar, doesn't listen to him whatsoever. And then a day later, not even a day later, it's that night, he crawls into bed with her and she's like, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry, you don't have to apologize, like I know that I just like flipped out. And I'm just like, wait a second, we just went from this being the moment that's gonna break us up to not having any conversation with each other to now saying, I love you and I know you would never hurt me. Like that really drove me crazy, those two chapters, because it felt like the same moment again, but like with the
Mm-hmm.
roles reversed in a
Yeah.
way. And so
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we already did this. I don't want this again.
Yeah.
That's it. That's my rant on that. I'm done
Oh,
with it.
I was waiting. Yeah, no, that definitely aggravated me. One thing I did love from the whole article thing that happened with them is it established Jason's relationship with Sloane's parents, because Jason's family adored her, and it would have been just so easy if her family loved him from the beginning.
Yes. I know,
Too
and
easy.
we don't really get to know her family that much.
Hmm. With her family, and okay, so this this is something that actually did really bother me in the book. So you don't get to really know the industry people or her family, and mainly the industry people that it bothered me more because they are this like evil entity almost
Yeah.
that makes their life hell, but we can't put a person to it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And honestly, I didn't really think about that until you brought that up, that it's easy to villainize them. And look, we've both lived in Los Angeles. We've both worked in the film and television industry. So like we know how bad it can be. However, it also would have been easier to kind of make that more tangible with like an actual character to
Yeah.
represent them, like if it's a manager or an agent or whatever. But you're right, it kind of goes against the rule that we establish in a lot of writing, where you don't want them talking about characters that like aren't there. Like, stop making the scene about somebody that's not there.
Oh yeah, even in improv,
Yeah.
when we were in class together, if anyone talked about someone who wasn't there, you'd get yelled at because it does nothing to propel the story within your scene.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I tell my students the same thing. I'm like, "Hey, look, you're writing a script about this couple, and it should be about their relationship, but you're making it about an outside force that's you're not even introducing in the story. So don't tell me about a cheating scandal if I don't get to meet the person that we think they're cheating with."
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I that's a fair point. I didn't think about that. And I do wish we had gotten to know her family. However, I loved his family.
Oh, they were great.
Oh God, and what a I mean, let me tell you, she paints a great picture of Minnesota and Midwest hospitality.
Hmm.
Because it's true. That's how people are here. Like I came here, and after 5 years in LA, and people here are just very naturally sweet and welcoming, and I think it unnerves a lot of people if you're not used to that. And so
Oh yeah.
I love that she fit right in with his family, and they were so sweet to her, and she was so good to them. Okay, this is my one other, like, I guess kind of complaint. Did it feel a little long to you?
Like her visiting?
No, just like the book.
Yeah, there were some parts that kind of trailed on.
Yeah, and it might be because like I'm a huge fan of like the rock star trope in romance. Like, I love a good rock star book. And what I like about this one specifically is that Jason is not the typical rock star. Like, I feel like in a lot of rock star romance, we see them partying and drinking and like having group sex, and like, don't get me wrong, I'm here for all of it. But at the same time, he is very sweet. He is not an alpha man. He treats her very well. He is a sweet Midwestern boy that's trying to make a name for himself, but he also sees how destructive this touring experience is for both of them and their relationship in general. And so I did like that, but this book is different because it's almost like two books. You have the whole courtship of them getting together, and then when they do get together, you think the issue is going to be that he's going to leave to go on tour, but she goes with him, and that kind of starts like a whole new part of the book.
Oh yeah, when they were arguing about whether they should have a kid, and it's like you guys
Oh
haven't been
my
together
god.
for a year.
Yeah,
Like, calm down.
that was intense. Well, and then when I realized, I guess for some reason I didn't realize like how old they were, but at one point she mentions that if they had a kid in 10 years, she would be 36, and I was like, "Wait a second. These
You're
people are
26?
only in their mid 20s?"
No, I think he's in his late 20s. I think
Okay.
that's what, yeah, he was like 29, she was like 26.
Oh, still.
Like there's no shame in having kids in your 30s. I commend people who wait.
Yes, absolutely. Especially in Los Angeles, that's nothing weird. Like, that's very, very
Yeah.
normal because people age differently in Los Angeles.
It's yeah, this is a place where you work first, then kids.
Yes, exactly. But you're right. I mean, that was an interesting conversation to have, and it kind of just that whole part of the book was it's almost like reading the romance that happens after a rock star romance ends. Like you think, oh, this is the happily ever after. They got together, but wait, now they're on tour, and is it happily ever after? There's a lot of crazy shit going on. Like, she's not happy, he's not happy. So part of me loved that. I loved that in-depth look at that, because I mean, it kind of, takes away all the beauty and the glamour from the rock star trope. But at the same time, I did feel like it kind of, it was definitely on the longer side of a romance novel for sure. So I did feel the first half especially take a bit to get going. That being said, I can't say that there's anything I would specifically not want to see in the book. So I really did love seeing their life on the road. I liked seeing them separate. I liked seeing the texting exchange at the beginning when she finds his dog, because that's cute as fuck.
That part not only was cute, but it was so relatable, because now everyone, that's how you court each other, and that's how you meet people.
Yeah.
For dating. So it felt relatable for sure.
Do you have a lot of dogs jump through the sunroof of your car and, jumpstart a texting relationship with somebody?
Actually, now that you mention it, yes.
Just the one time?
Just the one time. Actually, you know what? If a dog jumped into my car, I would keep the dog.
Yeah. I thought, and you know what? When I was reading that, I realized that a year ago, when the book was like first coming out, I had read a free preview of the book on NetGalley, but it was only like the first couple of chapters. So I had seen that part of the book, really loved it, and then the book hadn't come out for a few more weeks. And by that time, I was reading 8 other things, of course. And so I was excited to get back to that and see like, oh my gosh, this is that story that I was really invested in a year ago, and now I get to see how it all plays out. And I thought it was very sweet. I think it's a very charming love story. It's not the hottest of books, which we will talk about in a moment, but that's okay. I mean, who's to say that you have to have a, monstrous helping of sex in your romance novels? You don't.
It helps, but you don't have to have it.
Yeah, just depends on what you like to read. So actually, let's talk about the sexcerpts, because what were your thoughts about what few that we did have?
I liked the setting.
Which was where, Hadass?
In the middle of Minnesota, forest camping. I thought that was really cute, and it set like a really beautiful image in my head of like the stars everywhere. And yeah. Also, I've never camped, so I will believe anything you write about camping and just assume it's fact. The scene, it was good. I liked it. Some bits felt a bit unrealistic, but at the same time, it's such a fun book that it didn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, they're out in the woods, like in a tent, like I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the only explicit sex scene that I remember from the book. Like, I know that there are a couple other ones where they're starting to get into things, and then we cut to the next day. I happen to love a few of the scenes that come before the sex scene, which are more of like foreplay, heavy makeout scenes. I think this would make a fantastic movie, by the way. I'll just say that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like while reading it, I was like, I can see that. That's a very cinematic moment, especially when they have this makeout scene in his car going through the car wash. I was like, hell yeah, I would so love to watch and or reenact that scene.
It was a good scene.
Did you have a specific sexy moment that you wanted to share with the class?
I do. After reading through all the screenshots you send me.
I mean, that's like one of the things about listening to the audiobook, right? Is that you can't take screenshots. But actually, before you share, I'm curious, what did you think of the voice actors for the audiobook?
I loved them.
Good.
They were really, you could tell they were trained actors. Like it wasn't super corny how they presented it, and
Okay.
they were very they had a very clear point of view.
Okay. That's good. And did they
Yeah,
have like good chemistry with each other?
they did. So they read, like, each chapter was I can't English, was read by one person. So like if I'm Sloane telling the story, then I would be the female voice actor would be imitating Jason in her chapter, and the male voice actor would be imitating
Oh.
Sloane in his chapter. Yeah. But like you could even, it was very clear. I liked them a lot. I highly recommend the audiobook if you have a lot of driving you need to do.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, and I'm actually doing something different for the podcast this month in that one of our reviews coming out in March is of a audiobook exclusive. And so my guest and I will both be listening to the audiobook because it's not available in print.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think it's just like a way to like, oh, this is like an early exclusive sneak peek at this. And like, if you don't want to wait to read it, you can listen to it first.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So I thought, hey, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a fun little thing to do.
I'm excited. So anyway, hit me with your saucy moment.
This is from a Sloane chapter, so it's going to be from her point of view.
Okay.
I want you inside me, I breathed. And that's what he was waiting for. I watched his control break. He crashed his lips down on mine and slid into me. It was instant pleasure, a payoff bigger than anything I would have ever imagined, a weight beyond worth it. His first thrust hit some inner wall I didn't even know I had. Sorry.
Okay.
That part, oh my God. It sent shockwaves of ecstasy through my whole body. He then did it again and again and again. I gasped under him, frantically rolling my hips against him.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Frantic. Yep. And we're hitting
yeah.
that wall that she didn't know she had, which makes me think about female anatomy and wonder what wall she's talking about.
It could have been an emotional wall. Who knows? But that every time I read that line, I giggle.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah,
don't
it's a
know our
good one.
walls.
I'm assuming that's the equivalent of like when I read a romance novel and it gets like a little more explicit and they say something like he pounded into me until I could feel his dick like hitting my cervix or something. I'm just like, ouch, first of all, but also, are we calling that a wall? Like what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know what they mean by wall.
Anyway, word choice, right? That's what always sets people off in romance novels is it's all about the word choice. You're either going to love it or certain words just are going to irk you.
That's like with a lot of new writers, they refer to eyes as orbs.
Pass.
Yeah. Yeah. You see it a lot.
They probably put in a color too, right? Like blue orbs.
Yes. Yes. Staring back at me with blue orbs, and it's an eye.
Yes.
Eye. It's not a hard word to write.
Yeah. I know, right? That was in the same novel that we discussed in February where there was a playful cat. There was also I called it hand porn because there was a lot of descriptions of this man's knuckles and like the veins, and I was just like, look, can we not just say that like he reached out a hand and like brushed hair off her face? Like, when did that go out of style?
Also, hand veins?
Yeah, I don't know. He was apparently very bony and very veiny. Who knew?
That reminds me of oh God, what was that book we read for Halloween? Mexican Gothic.
Oh, yeah.
The way they described Francis. That was the guy.
Yes.
That was the character I said I would die for, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. There's another book rec for everybody. Maybe
it's so good.
Maybe not a February, March book rec, but you know what? Whatever gets you through the year.
But that's how they described him, as like being bony and papery because he was very ill,
veins.
Very veiny. So it makes sense.
Okay, I've got an excerpt that's close to the end of their sex scene in the tent outdoors. Although I will say As far as steamy scenes go, I do think the car wash one is probably my favorite, although it is very brief. But here is a little taste of the climax, shall we say, of this excerpt outdoors. And I'll start with, he hiked an elbow behind
I knew you
my
were going to
knee.
read that part. I'm literally looking at that part. I'm like, she's going to read it.
I love a good knee hiking. I am here for it. He hiked an elbow behind my knee and somehow managed to drive himself deeper. I let out a sound that made me grateful there was no one within 2 miles to hear it, and he released a moan of his own. I knew he was close. His body went rigid as he neared the end, and the orgasm that he'd been working me up to built and built on top of itself. And then when he groaned and I felt the warm pulsing inside me, my climax tipped over and decimated me. This is my favorite part right here.
Decimated?
Oh, no. It's coming up. I do appreciate the way that decimated is italicized, though, I will say. But here we go. It was the fireworks finale on the 4th of July. A dam breaking, an atomic bomb. I was leveled. I had nothing left after it. I couldn't even move. Yeah. Atomic bomb, dam breaking, 4th of July, fireworks. Yeah. I mean, keep in mind, this is the first dude that she's dated, much less the first guy she's had sex with since her fiance passed away. And I actually there's a section where she mentions this is the first time I'm doing this with somebody because I thought that the last guy I was with was going to be the last guy I'd ever be with. And I was like, wow, that really puts things in perspective for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, do you have any final notes before we move on to giving this book a few grades?
I both loved and this is it's weird. I loved it and hate it towards the end, the whole painting.
Oh, okay. The fact that she painted him.
Yeah, when she was like, I never want to speak of him or hear his voice or anything, and then she paints him. I'm like, I mean, I love it, but also why?
Yeah.
But the song at the end where he sees her in the middle of a crowd, it's very overload of cute.
Yeah, I mean, it's very cinematic. Again, it's very cinematic. And honestly, I can see where it's that could be interpreted as cheesy, but at the same time, I love the fact that they both deliver on what they said they would do. She says, I could paint you from memory and have it be a perfect imitation of you. And she does. And he says, I could pick you out of a crowd of millions of people. And he does. And it's one of those things I'm not a huge fan of insta love stories or stories where they're so, I don't want to say the word soulmates, but I guess kind of in the same realm of soulmates. But I feel I was okay with it this time around. It worked for me for some reason.
Also the fact that the level of confidence and self-love she had for her self-portrait.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Oh, and can we talk about the fact that she was a tattooed heroine as well? I feel we don't see enough women with tattoos, much less women who are very, I guess what I would say, who go against the grain of what you would expect a woman with a lot of tattoos to be as if that's an actual stereotype, But she's on the more softer side. She's obviously dealing with heartbreak and loss, but at the same time, she's very artistic. She's very quiet. She keeps to herself a lot. She's, on the shy side. And so I love that that's her interior, but her exterior is this badass tattooed artist.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was great.
Yeah, same.
I did put this up on Twitter because I found this amusing in a petty note kind of way, which is the fact that when they have a double date with Kristen and her husband, they sing karaoke, but not just any karaoke, at home on a karaoke machine. Did you not find that weird? I found that super weird. I was just we're talking about grown-ass adults in Los Angeles singing at home on a karaoke machine, and this is not a pandemic story.
Oh, you know what? I think that kind of flew over my head because this isn't a pandemic story, and I'm like, oh, it's probably a pandemic story.
Yeah, that was something where I don't know what it was, but something about that rubbed me the wrong way, where I was just like, wait a second, why are they doing this? And maybe apologies to anybody who has like an at-home karaoke machine, but that to me is just something that's like either super dated or something that you don't do over the age of like 14, or I could have bought them doing it in Minnesota, I guess. But Los Angeles?
Yeah, especially in Koreatown where there are buildings with rooms specifically for like one party to do karaoke.
Yeah. Koreatown is like karaoke mecca in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that now that you mention, I'm like, that is a little odd, but at the same time, I'm sure Kristen was just trying to keep Sloane from backing out because I'm pretty sure if Sloane saw Koreatown, she would know.
Yeah, no, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And then the other thing I wrote down is like weird flex, but okay, is like when it's the same dinner party. It's a really weird like couples dinner because I also was like, I don't know what they're eating, but who cares? But Kristen and Sloane have this tradition
With the
that
chips?
they've done. Thank you. Okay, that they've done since they were kids, where after they eat a bag of chips, and this is specifically like a Doritos bag, and I'm picturing like the little snack ones that like you put in like somebody's lunchbox. They flip the bag inside out, wear it on their hands, and then like lick the edges of the bag so they get all the crumbs.
Yes.
I don't know. That was a little much for me.
Yeah. I just thought it was a weird friend thing. I'm like, we all have like that one weird thing we do with our best friends. So I
Yes.
tried not to judge it, but it did seem a little gross.
And see, that's the thing too, is like on the one hand, I'm like, wow, I've never read a book where they've done that before. So on the one hand, I'm going to give, Abby major props for having what's like clearly a funny thing between friends that they've done for years. And it's so unique. I appreciate that. On the other hand, hands in chips. I just kept thinking like, would I see grown-ass women do this? But again, I'm trying not to judge. It's a very petty note. I promise. I am not. This in no way takes points away from my assessment of the book. It's just something that stood out to me that I felt needed to be mentioned. Much like I always need to mention things having related to orange juice and what we are allowed to eat or not eat with our orange juice.
Wait, what?
Okay, you've clearly not listened to the cinnamon roll and orange juice episode. There was an episode from last season where one of our characters was eating a cinnamon roll and they sat down to eat it with a glass of fresh squeezed orange juice. Yep, thank you. And it prompted a whole discussion about the acceptable drinks you can have with cinnamon rolls. And it's a conversation that has haunted me to this day and that we still discuss on social media when the subject of cinnamon rolls or orange juice comes up. So again, not in this book. However, it is a petty note. I have at least one petty note for every book. I'm sure people have different petty notes than my petty notes, but I felt that it bared mentioning.
Yes.
So that about sums it up for me. Did you have anything else left to say about the book before we give her a few grades?
It's definitely a feel-good book. Like if you want to feel like butterflies and like all the cutesy aspects of a romance, this is the book to read.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate assessment. So I'm with you on that one. But okay. Well, we are going to give this book a few grades, and we are going to be grading for heart, heat, and humor on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the very best that it could possibly be. So let's start with heart. Out of 10, what do you think?
7.5.
7.5. Okay. And I'm curious, I know everybody's scale is different, but is there a reasoning for why it's not an 8 or why it's better than a 7?
Mainly because some of the fights were very out of character.
Yeah.
In how harsh they were, that it kind of brought it down a little bit from an 8.
Okay, fair enough. I understand that. I do understand that. No, I think that's fair. I think for heart, I'm probably, it's interesting because like on the one hand, it's so heart heavy with like the soulmates, insta love, instant attraction side, but then at the same time, there are those stupid breakup moments that are the exact example of like, this could have been a conversation that like would have saved this relationship. So yeah, I'm with you. I think I'll probably give it a 7. And I do, when they're in love, I love it. Like I really did love their relationship, but it just bothered me how quickly things would deteriorate. I think that's what it was, they would just go from like 0 to 100 very quickly and then back again. So that kind of annoyed me. But how about humor? Did you find this to be a humorous book?
Oh, solid 9. I was laughing throughout the whole thing.
Okay.
It was great.
Yeah.
Kristen was phenomenal.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd go quite as high, but I would be like an 8, 8.5. Like it's really amusing. The conversations are great. Kristen is freaking hilarious, which I'm kicking myself that I never read The Friend Zone, which is the first book in the series, and that's Kristen's book. So I'm going to have to go back and for sure read that one. So also, I'm excited.
Also, not just Kristen, but her husband, their dynamic had me in tears. I could not stop laughing.
They are precious. Like that is like marriage goals for sure.
Oh, that is what I plan to be like as an older married person. Just, yeah, setting everyone up and annoying the hell out of them doing it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. And he was so supportive of like all the shit she would do too. Like, oh yeah, that's just how she is. Like, I married her.
Yeah, no, I loved it.
Yeah, that's very cute. Okay. And then the heat. And this is, again, everybody's scale when it comes to heat is differently. I will tell you that for me, I generally say that if I read Sex on the Page, that guarantees it to be at least a 5 in my book, because there are plenty of closed door romances out there where we don't get sex on the page. So that's how I think about heat in a romance, but it's up to you how you feel on a scale of 1 to 10.
I'm going to say a 6 because even though there was only the one sex scene that we got to, have an image of, their build up to it was really fun to read.
Yeah, I love some good foreplay. It's definitely a slow burn, and rightfully so, because she is just getting back into the dating scene after a trauma. So this is one of those ones where I feel like, yes, they don't have sex until like beyond 50% of the way into the book. However, I think it's so justified. Like I would have felt a little uncomfortable if they did have sex earlier, I think.
Oh yeah, it's more the second half of the book where the reason the score isn't higher is more because of the second half where they kind of have sex, but it's glazed over, not really talked about.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, and can I just say, I want to see more boning and like make-out scenes in car washes from now on. Like I'm very here for, and specifically the rainbow car wash. Like Abby was very specific about what kind of car wash this was taking place in. Yeah,
it was great.
I'm with you. I think I'd give it a 6, maybe 6.5, because I really did love what heat was there. I don't have anything bad to say about the sex. They're very consent heavy. Like it's very apparent that this man is so invested in her needs and making sure that she feels safe in bed with him. And so I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I thought there was a lot of great buildup, like you said. So I'm here for it. I definitely, now that I've read this, I do want to go back and read The Friend Zone, and I am looking forward to the next book in the series. So I do want to ask you, Hadass, one, do you think that you'll read more books in this series? And two, do you think that you'll read more romance in your future?
Yes, and mainly the ones you'll recommend. You know what types of books I like. You know the direction I go into. Like, you know what I would like.
Okay, so you want like a romance rec specifically tailored to you and your interests. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
I think we can make that happen.
Yay!
Well, I'm so glad that you joined me for this episode. And please, if you so choose, tell everybody listening where they can find and follow you and all of your, upcoming theatrical endeavors.
So I am on Instagram, Facebook, and what's the other one? Twitter.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, the blue one. Twitter, I am Lev, Lev _ Hadass, Hadas. And then on Instagram, I'm Hadass _ Lev. So.
Oh my gosh, you just want to confuse people. You're like, we're going to mix it up on every
It's
platform.
what was available. People are taking my name.
There's too many Hadass Levs out in the world. Like, it's right up there with John Smith.
Pretty much.
Well, thank you again, my dear. And I'm so excited that you've, shifted your views of romance. And hopefully there will be plenty more in your future. And I will see to it, because that's what happens when you're friends with me.
Aw, well, this was so fun. I'm glad we did this.
Me too. Now you take care. And, I know you're not in the restaurant right now, but when you do get back eventually, make sure that you're being safe, and hopefully I'm going to cross my fingers that no other customers take off their shirts in your company in the near future.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks so much for listening. Boobies and Newbies is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts. You can follow Boobies and Newbies on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Boobies Podcast.